Hi everyone, in this video we're going to go over some practice exercises to begin learning how to fold a trefoil knot. There's two different types of bends that are used to fold this, and it's really just a bunch of these different bends linked together. I made a couple practice exercises so you can fold them one at a time just to make sure you understand them fully before you commit to folding the entire thing. And then next week I'll post a full tutorial for this version. And then the week after that, I'll post a tutorial for this version where the knot is a little bit tighter. We'll start by folding a template that's divided into fifths. That makes it easier to fold all of our rectangles into fifths. The first bend is the same bend that's used in Thoki Yenn's design called Umulius Rectangulum. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I've also heard it called impossible rectangles or magic rings. If you've folded that one before, you can just skip the first practice exercise. Then the second bend is done very similarly to the first one, but the creases are done off-center. So it's a little bit different to collapse, and there's an extra layer that you have to tuck in at the end. And then I also made a third exercise where you combine both of those bends on the same sheet of paper. It has two bends that are done in the center and then one of those off-center ones. So you can get used to connecting them together because the trefoil knot is really just a bunch of these bends all connected. Then to fold these, all you need is 2 sheets of printer paper, which we're then going to cut in half, so we have a total of 4 long rectangles. So grab some paper, and let's get started. So I'm starting out with 2 regular sheets of printer paper, and I'll be cutting each of these in half lengthwise for a total of 4 long rectangles. To do that, we'll just take one and fold it in half lengthwise. Then unfold, and then cut it in half right along this crease. And then we'll do the same thing with the other sheet of paper. So now we have a total of 4 rectangles. Now we'll take just one of these and we're going to cut a square off of this one. Then we're going to fold that square into fifths and use that as a template for our other rectangles so we can fold them into fifths easier. But we'll start by just bringing this edge up to the top. And then unfold. Then we'll valley fold this over right where this crease meets the edge. Fold it over, just make sure you're starting this crease right where that crease lines up on the edge. And then make sure that bottom and top edges line up with the edges underneath, and then crease it down. And then unfold. And now we're going to cut right along that crease. Now we have a square that's the same width as our rectangle. We're going to take that square and we're going to fold this into fifths. To do that, we'll take this edge on the right and bring it into that diagonal crease we made. And then unfold. And then bring that same edge into that new crease we just made. And then unfold. Now I'm actually going to rotate this. And now we're going to valley fold up, and our crease is going to start right where this crease line meets the edge. So we'll fold it up, and you can Just roll it around a little bit until you have it lined up with that crease. And then make sure the edges on the left and the right line up with the edges underneath. And then we can crease that down. You can see that started right where that crease met up on the edge. Next, we'll take this edge on the top and bring it down to the edge on the bottom. Crease that, and then unfold. And then we can bring that edge on the top and bring it into the crease we just made. And then unfold that and unfold the one on the bottom. And then bring that bottom edge up to the top crease. And now we have folded our square into fifths, and we'll be able to use that as a template on our rectangles. That way we can fold each of them into fifths without making these extra creases for the references. So this is the first bend we're going to be folding. This is what the crease pattern looks like. So this is actually just the exact same bend from the Umulius Rectangulums, the impossible rectangles. If you've ever folded that, you can just skip this first one because it's exactly like that. But if you haven't, this is what the creases will look like. We just fold it into fifths lengthwise, and then we'll divide it in half. Then there's these 3 creases right here we need to make, and then we can collapse everything. Now take one of those long rectangles, and we're gonna fold this into fifths lengthwise. So to do that, we can just fold along one of these creases. And then we'll take the long rectangle and we're going to put the square over it along that crease. And just make sure it's pressed all the way up against the edge. And then hold that down firmly, just making sure this doesn't slide around as you do this. I'm gonna make sure it's on there nice and tight. And then we're gonna take this bottom edge and fold it up to this crease. Line it up, and we can just crease this on the right side and then slide this over all the way to the left. And do the same thing over here. Just make sure it's nice and snug up top. Fold up to that crease. And then we can connect those 2 creases. Unfold. Then we can take our template off. And now we have this long crease here, and we're going to take the bottom edge and fold it up to that crease. And then take the top edge and fold it down to the new bottom edge. And then unfold. Then take that top edge and fold it down to that crease we just made. And unfold, and then unfold the bottom as well. And now we have this rectangle folded into fifths. Now turn the whole thing over. Now we're just gonna valley fold this in half, bringing the right edge over to the left edge. and then unfold. Now we'll turn that back over. Now we're going to fold the left and right edges over a little bit. This amount doesn't have to be exact, but we're going to fold it over about 1 unit. So if you fold it over until it looks like it's about as wide this way as it is as 1/5 of the paper this way. And we'll do the same thing on the right side. And these ones don't have to be exact. Just fold it over about that much. Now next we're going to make a crease that bisects this angle. So it's just going to extend out here, and it's only going to go between these 2 creases. So I'll show you what it looks like first, and then we can look at it up close. But we're going to valley fold this edge up. And we want to look closely, and I'm just going to crease it really quick and then show you what it looks like up close. So we want to make sure that it starts right where this crease intersects with this crease. So it should be starting right from that angle that's right here. And to make sure we're folding at the right angle, you want to line up this crease with the crease that's underneath it. And then we're only creasing between these 2 creases. I'll unfold, and that's what it looks like. Then we're going to do the same thing, but on the bottom here, we're going to bisect this angle. And again, it's only going to go between these 2 creases. Just make sure it lines up and starts right from these 2 creases, and then this horizontal crease should line up with the crease that's underneath it. And then we'll unfold that. And then we'll turn this over. And now we just need to connect these 2 creases. And so to do that, I typically just pinch it from this side. So if you just look closely, make sure you're starting it from the right spot, and then you can make sure it lines up on both sides, and then just crease it like that. And you should have these 3 creases here. And now that is all the pre-creasing we need, and then we can start to collapse this. So we'll start from the other side. Just going to valley fold in on the top and bottom creases. And then we'll turn it back over. Then we're going to valley fold up along this crease. And then we're going to collapse a few things all at the same time. We'll try to show it from all the different angles. But we're going to be forming these 3 creases and these long mountain folds as we do that. You're kind of working the paper from both sides. Try to show that from the inside. It's hard because these layers get in the way. But hopefully you get it so it looks like this, and then we need to put one of these layers on top of the other. So just bring one layer over the other all the way across. And then you'll notice this little pocket right here from where we folded the paper over before. With the layer that's underneath, we're going to slide that into the pocket of the layer that's on top. Now this will lock it all in place. If we just flip it around and do that from the other side, just slide that one into the pocket as well. Then it should all hold together nicely. And then we are done with our first simple bend. The next one we do is going to be pretty similar to this, but it will be done on the side. So there's a little step where you have to tuck some paper behind that's a little more difficult, but the concept is very similar. Now the second bend looks like this, which actually looks just like the first one, but the creases we make are going to be a little off center, so this flap is in a little bit of a different spot. This is what the crease pattern will look like. So the other one we had these 3 creases right in the center, but this time they're going to be up top, and then we have this one extra crease at the bottom. So folding it is still pretty easy, but then the actual collapsing part is a bit more difficult than the other one. So now we'll take our other rectangle and we're going to fold this into fifths just like we did before. Now, just like before, we're going to turn that over and valley fold the whole thing in half. And then unfold and turn it back over. And then we'll fold both of the edges in one unit, just like we did on the last one. And again, it does not have to be perfect. Now we're going to make the same 3 creases as we did in the last bend, except this time they're going to be on the top section of the paper instead of in the middle. So we can start by just bringing this top edge down to the center vertical crease, but we're only going to fold from the edge to the first crease. Next, we're going to fold bisecting this angle and just between this crease and this crease. So just make sure it starts right where those creases meet, and then make sure this crease lines up with the crease underneath. And then before we flip it over to fold this crease, we're going to fold one more crease down on the bottom here. It's going to bisect this angle. And now we can turn it over, and we're going to make that crease that connects these 2 points. Now I like to just do that as a mountain fold, but you can lay the paper down and fold it this way just to make sure it stays straight. You can make sure these edges line up. But I think it's easier to just do as the mountain fold from the other side. But now we can start collapsing this. This one's a little more difficult to collapse than the last one. But we'll start by folding over along the second crease from the bottom. Then we'll turn it over. And we're going to collapse this just like the other one. But this time, this layer is going to get in the way a little more. But we just fold this up and then press in from the other side. And then on this one, we need to make sure that this layer that's on the back is going to be on the outside. So we're going to swing this layer to the inside. Then we'll close this outer layer over that. And then as you close that layer, these creases are going to start to form naturally. But we actually want to make this angled crease as the mountain fold. And next we have the hardest step. We're going to take this edge and we're going to tuck it inside of this pocket. And then it should hold on there pretty well once you tuck that in. And then we're going to tuck this layer into this pocket. So we tuck the inside layer into the pocket that's on the outside layer, just like we did before. And turn it around and do it with the other side. So as you can see, this looks just like the one that we had before, but the creases are in a different spot, so it's a little bit more difficult to get this part tucked in, especially if you use smaller paper or when you have all of the bends connecting together. A lot of times it's easier to use some tweezers to tuck that inside when we're actually making the official trefoil knot. But hopefully you were able to do that one. Now we're going to combine these different types of bends. We're going to have 3 total bends for this one. This is going to be the crease pattern. So we're going to have these 2 that are right in the center. And then the middle bend is going to be the second version where it's off to the side. So folding each of the creases is pretty simple if you've made it through the other ones, but collapsing it does get a little bit more difficult. These bends on the side are a bit trickier when it happens in the middle and it's connected to a bunch of other creases, but let's give it a shot. Now we're going to start just like before by folding this into fifths. Now we'll turn the whole thing over and we'll fold this into fourths. So we'll fold it in half first. And unfold. And then bring both of the edges into that center crease. And then turn it over. Now we can fold over the edges just like before, just one unit. Now we'll unfold both of those. And And now on this crease, we're going to fold these 3 creases just like from the first unit, as well as on this crease. We're going to fold these 3 creases right here. And then on the center crease, we're going to do the second unit. So we'll start with this one on the right. We're going to fold these 3 creases right here. Then do it just like that with this crease. And then for the center line, we'll fold that like we do for the second unit. Now we can fold over these edge units, and then we'll start collapsing this. So we'll fold over on the bottom and top creases. Then we're going to start over on the right. We can flip that over, and we'll collapse this just like we did with that very first unit. Then we need to make sure that this flap that has this extra crease over here is on top. And we can close this up if we want. It might come undone as we're folding more. But then we're going to collapse this area. And again, this is that second unit. So we're going to start with this point right here. I'm going to collapse that. And it can get a little tricky. We'll work the paper from both sides. I have my fingers kind of on the inside here. Then you just want to make sure this layer ends up on top. Sometimes it works really easily, other times you have to fix it a little bit. Then we'll close this up like before, having the angled crease be the mountain fold. And then we can tuck that inside at the end, because it usually will just pop right out if you tuck it in as you go. Then we're going to find these creases for the final bend. And we'll collapse that. And we can tuck that edge in. And then we want to look where this bend is. You just want to tuck this flap behind. Now this part's usually the most difficult. I usually find it a lot easier to use tweezers, but it can be done without it. And then we have that completed. I really hope you're able to make it through that. If not, just watch the steps really closely and maybe just practice the other bends on their own until you have it down, and then you can start connecting them together. But hopefully you're able to do that. If you want some more practice, you could try folding another one that has the second bends on the outside. So you'd have one here, and then just one of the center bends right in the middle. Or you can use a longer rectangle and string some more of them together. But if you're able to make it through that, the final trefoil knot is really just a bunch of these all strung together. I mean, the more you have, it can get a little more difficult to be tucking those edges in. And then you have to weave the paper in and out of each other for some of it. But essentially, it's just doing this a bunch of times. So if you're able to make it through this, you should be able to make it through the trefoil knot. So go smash the like button if you found this video helpful, and I'll be posting the tutorial for the full trefoil knot next week, so make sure you're subscribed and you click the notification bell, and then I'll see you in my next video.